I am always trying to either read books, podcasts, or just learn. Because what I've learned is like nobody really knows anything.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast, where we'll be discussing the struggles and lessons learned along the journey of a seven-figure entrepreneur. It's my great pleasure to welcome our guest today, Dale Castro with Overlap. Dale, welcome to the call.
Awesome. Awesome to be here. Thank you.
Hey, you bet. We're excited to learn more about you and about your company. So, without further ado, let's just jump right in. Hey, Dale, as a small business owner, as an entrepreneur, please share with us your story. Where did you start from? Where have you been able to get to? And maybe share a few key lessons learned along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate it. And, I like to start with where my passion came from. And really that at a young age, I was a athlete and also a creative nerd. So I really fell in love with just drawing and painting and all of that. And so along the way, competition was really heavy in my family as well too. So it's now sitting here today with my business, I see how those two things really are at the root of the building blocks, really,
Yeah.
of where I am today. So, but going back into the creative side of things, I just really enjoyed um, figuring out how to make things beautiful, understanding why they looked great. And obviously, I didn't pay attention in class very much, and I got in trouble for drawing all the time. But now looking back, maybe it's justification, but
Right.
I've always been a dreamer. And so definitely, I'm not an organized, a detailed kind of person, but I think in sports, I wanted to be competitive, and I'm always going to get across the finish line or score a goal or a bucket or whatever it is. But how we get there, that wasn't really my main forte. But along the way, after high school, I realized that I was not going to be a Disney animator. And so, what was the next best thing for me? And actually, my now wife of almost 30 years, we've been together now.
Oh,
We
congratulations.
just celebrated 25 years of marriage. We were high school sweethearts. And so, coming out, I knew that being a starving artist wasn't going to be a good look, especially as a future husband for her.
Right.
And she actually said that maybe I should look into computers. So I actually called DeVry and explained to them what I wanted to do. And they said, you're in the wrong school. So in Arizona, where I'm from, actually, I'm a military brat, but my dad retired and ended up in Arizona. And I'll share a little bit more of that background as well, too. My wife was just like, look at something in computers. And that's how I found myself at the Art Institute of Phoenix. Um, and from there, that was the days where authorware and director and just making CD-ROMs. I don't know if anybody out there remembers that, but that was the wave. And that was my first introduction of the combination of having design and creativity and then applying it to technology as well too. Obviously, we've come a long way, but that really was the passion and the root of me was being able to couple those things together as well too. So to back up a little bit, to give you a little bit of background of me, I actually went to six high schools in my 4 years of high school.
Wow.
The reason why that is my dad was in the Air Force, military. We moved all over, so it wasn't uncommon for me to live at a place. I lived in Japan, Okinawa, Japan, Philippines, Hawaii, Guam, like all in the Far East, and really got exposed to a lot of different cultures and things. And till today, I still cherish that. When you're a kid and you're in that environment, you don't know what you have and the beauty around you. But I'm so blessed to be able to have those experiences well too. And so being able to experience different backgrounds and cultures is probably a big reason why, if you looked at our company right now, we have a very diverse group, and that's on purpose. So in my experience, I've been in the agency world for a long time as well too, and I just felt like certain agencies or the environment tend to look at things a similar lens.
Mhm.
And so I felt that if I ever was going to create an agency, that it would be with a diverse group, allowing us to really look at things, different sensitivities, and there's many different contexts that you have to take into consideration.
Right.
So after going to the Art Institute in Phoenix, and then I worked. I remember this. So you go to Art Institute of Phoenix, and they it's you have a portfolio bag, and you're supposed to wear a suit and tie, and I remember I was with my now wife, but I was going to interview for a company, a local company out here. And I remember I'm driving. There's no, I didn't even have a cell phone. I think I have a pager back then. So I actually had to pull over. I couldn't find the address where I'm looking for a building. And so we stop out at like a Big Five. I asked the Big Five if I could use their phone. I call him. I was like, I can't find your building. And the guy's like, we don't have a building. We work in the basement of a home. And I remember going into my car, and my wife is like, "Oh my gosh, you are not going to work here. You just went to Art Institute, and you're going to be working in the basement." And I told her, "Yeah, just." So she's definitely the more black and white analytical, and I'm more of the big vision dreamer type. So we work very well together.
Right.
So I remember rolling up there with my big portfolio bag, with my suit and tie, and walking inside there and going to the basement. And I just remember looking to my right. I mean, you can see the monitors, they're playing muted music and the lights flickering from the screens on their face. And I remember looking to my right, it was actually a gentleman that I admired at the Art Institute. He was like, he knew everything. He was the guy. He was the guy at school that the teachers were asking things as well too.
Oh wow.
And I remember as soon as I saw him, I was like, whatever you guys are doing, I'm in. Whatever you guys are doing, I'm in. And I think not knowing then now, but I think for me, I always was a sponge. And I think to this day, I think that's probably my biggest superpower is that I'm hungry to learn. I am always trying to either read books, podcasts, or just learn. Because what I've learned is like nobody really knows anything.
Right.
And but here's the thing, they're all trying to do the best they can with what they know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, when I saw this gentleman, I knew that I'd be able to learn a tremendous amount from him. And that was the case. Started working in the basement. That company got merged with another company, and like four or five different things that we ended up being with acquired by agency that had Ford as one of their clients, and we were able to work with like Boeing and Nike, and really felt fortunate that back then, we're doing Flash. I don't know if you remember Flash, but Flash was a great tool that paid a lot of bills
Yeah.
for me. But I just feel really honored to be to get in this world when I did, and the journey that I had, because I have a great appreciation of everything from animation and Flash and just storytelling. Back then, nobody really cared about user experience and
Right.
all of these things. I remember us creating something for the for Mazda, the RX-7, and we did not care if the user knew the navigation. We literally was saying it's part of the journey. Let them explore, and the clients loved it. Back then you can just make a logo spin and explode, and they just throw more money at you.
Right.
So I always say that I was very lucky to be able to work with companies that had the budget to basically just throw at problems, because I was learning. I was just learning and having fun. And so, once that was happening inside the web world, and then Web 2.0 was coming up, and all of these e-commerce and the world was changing and shifting, I kind of got a little bit big headed. I have entrepreneur in my blood in me. My dad is an entrepreneur. When he was in the military, and that's why we moved. He was 22 years in the Air Force, and he would hustle. He'd get jobs cleaning the theater, cleaning the on-base housing. So I learned at the very early age about that hustle and that grind, and then also doing it with like his family as well too. So that is a great memory for sure, and that's
Absolutely.
been instilled in me. So moving forward, I'm not gonna lie, I was reminiscing and I forgot to thank God
You're
that already
good.
happened.
Love it.
So I'm just gonna keep it real. Um, but working with that company, being able to work with those big brands, um, I didn't know how lucky I was. So here's the thing: I definitely got lucky, but I think that I made the most of it as well too. But I also, I remember where I was. I got a big head, meaning the entrepreneurial blood. So I was doing freelance on the side and working at the agency. And then there was a point where I was making more money on the freelance side and then at the agency. Big lesson learned, right? I took advantage of the situation and then I went on my own. And, just because you're great at a craft does not mean you're going to be great at the business side of
Right.
things. So, and that's okay. And I think that's something that I even teach my kids right now. I have three boys, 21, 18, and 16.
Oh, nice.
And I definitely, I repeatedly say to them that you have to, just be able to learn, be able to network, treat people well, and constantly trying to sharpen your craft. So after that, and doing my own, I failed at that one, but had a great time. And along the way, I would say it was a failure in the sense of I just didn't know how to run a business.
Okay.
I was a creative guy that was forced to be a business guy. And if you know creatives, we're not the best business people. I am, we're just not, because of the fact that, when the purpose of having a business is to make money.
Right.
For me, the purpose of having a business was to do cool shit and have long lunches. That was literally my goal. And so, you guessed it, it didn't work out, right? So I went back out to the agency world, worked at one of the top agencies in here in Arizona, and worked with some brilliant people as well too. But I was definitely focused on understanding. Okay, this agency has been around for like 30 plus years, and they have like 80 people. How do they make money? Even though I'm not good at finances, there was something in me like I have to figure out. There's a way that they're not losing out in every project, because I was working with great brands and getting paid well, but I wasn't being profitable.
Gotcha.
I was burning through that budget basically. So what I learned at this agency is that, well, there's things called scope changes, and there's ways of positioning that. There's a way of being confident that you're able to price at your value, and that's definitely that now in social media that gets thrown around a lot. Your value,
Right.
your value. The problem is people understand what you think your value is and what your real value is two separate things. It's very different. So you can be delusional, or you can just not understand what real value is. And so I learned that at the agency that there was a way of doing things where you can still serve your clients, still run a business, still make sure that we're growing and, as a company. And so that was critical. And then probably about 3, 4 years into that, I became like a fat cat. I had a corner office with the window. I was a director. It just I didn't feel like I felt stifled. I felt like I wasn't advancing.
Right.
And you know, I think at that point, having three little ones, actually I got two or three. I had little ones at the house. Um, Took a little convincing for my wife that I wanted to go ahead and just switch because it was comfortable.
Right.
Um, and so she knows that I'm a little bit crazy, but she also knows that she has to kind of let me fly, but with some guidance. So I actually wanted to go ahead and work on the client side. I was like, okay, I've been on the agency side. I did a boutique agency side. Let me see what's like on the client side. So I worked with a data center at a data center, the global head of their global digital marketing side of things. And I would say that that was tremendous for me. Just looking at it and getting empathy from the client side and understanding just the fragments. And, a lot of times we would complain about, hey, the client's not getting back to us, or there's different directions. But the reality is it's fragmented. I mean, the sales team is now working with the marketing team.
Right.
The marketing team is now working with the leadership. So even though you have good people inside, sometimes they're just handcuffed.
Yeah.
And so it really helped me as an agency owner to see it from both sides. And also make sure that if we're working, if we're working, either I'm on the client side and we're working with an agency, that I can call bullshit.
Yeah.
And not in a disrespectful way, but in a way to be productive.
Right.
Like, enough to push, right? And agencies know, that, I know that. If you get somebody on a call and you're on the client side and they're able to ask the right questions and hold certain things accountable, I'm telling you that when they come back into the agency on the agency side, they're like, okay, like we gotta tighten up a little bit over here. This or when we're doing status calls, we can't just go through the sheet. We have to actually be ready, right? And the same thing when you're on the agency side, when you're talking to the client, being empathetic, just understanding how can we fix this? How can we establish your goals? I know that you don't have unlimited resources, unlimited budget. So I think for me, that's allowed us to have success for almost 10 years now. February, well, 2025 will be 10 years. And I would say 95 of our clients have been with us since day one.
Oh, wow.
Um, so to me, that's the big trophy that I hold up, because you can always get a client, but they're not going to stay with you if you're not producing
Right.
and if they don't like working with you. So, going on the client side, our culture, I talked about the diversity, but we talked about also just getting shit done. That is a one of our brand pillars as well too, is get shit done. So the first one is dream big. And I think I talked about that a little bit, is not just being lofty goals or just dreaming, but dream big for each other. Like,
Yeah.
we're all here together to uplift each other. Number two is GSD, which is get shit done. And that's not in a harsh, cold way. That's a respect to us. It's, I have a job to do, you have a job to do. You're relying on me to get my shit done so that you can do yours.
Right.
Right. And then at the end of the day, we're doing it because we want to service our client. So it's really a mantra that we really hold on to. And then the last one is have fun, which is, here's the thing about agencies, and I've heard them talk about have fun and stuff, and I've been a part of agencies that try to force that here. If you don't have it, you don't have it.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like if you're in an agency and you guys are not a fun agency, don't try to be fun or be funny. Just be who you are.
Right.
Because I feel like if you just are true to yourself, if you're authentic about who you do and the work you do, you will attract those type of people, and then you're not going to create this confusion. And I've been part of that. They're trying to bring in all these creative, fun, big vision thinkers, but at the end of the day, that's not really what they want. They want, template out, cookie cutter type solutions,
Right.
which is great. It's confusing. You're attracting top talent, but they're going to lose their heart. And so for us, being able to have fun and enjoy, we love hanging out together, And I know a lot of people like to say, "Oh, we're like a family." To me, it's more like we're a sports team.
Oh, I like
We're a sports team because we all have a job to do. We all want to win. We're all at the same goal, and we got to fire each other up.
that. Yeah.
We got to hold each other accountable, right? If you're not working out or you're not working on your skill set, but the thing is, what people have to understand is it's the intent.
Yeah.
right? In your words, you have to understand what is your intent. If your team understands that nobody's trying to bash them, make them look bad, or take their position, um, it's the intent. Everything after that becomes crystal clear. And to talk about that, my experience with agencies, not I understand that I wasn't built for an agency life. It's really weird for me to say this. The first probably 3, 4 years of our of overlap, we definitely didn't want to be known as an agency. I had a bad taste in my mouth about just being an agency or even using that word.
Right.
Because what I come from is that everybody had a title, but they used that title to basically cover their ass. Like, that's not my job,
Gotcha.
or that's the other's department. And I really didn't like that because I love collaboration,
Yeah.
mind bending together. And so, and I also felt like we weren't authentic to what we were conveying to the client, basically. So that's a little bit about our team at Overlap, and I want to transition into like where we are today.
Okay.
And like a snapshot is that we started off as just myself and Eric Flores, um, and Eric handles the technical side of things.
Okay.
He's the dev tech, and I'm the creative strategy. So in the early days, it was very simple because we just wanted to have long lunches, literally, or and just go to like big dinners and stuff, but do really cool stuff.
Right.
The first project that we worked together on was like Pokemon, I think, and then we did a Nike project. But um, it was very clear that that wasn't going to work. So we knew that we needed to make a shift. And so, actually, my brother Derek Castro, which is another co-founder, came from Verizon, the corporate,
Okay.
and so he was working with us on the side as well too. And he just like he'd go and do lunch with us or dinner. He's like, "This is what you guys do? Like, this is what do you guys even do?"
I love
And so he was like, "I want to do what you guys are doing." And so he made the leap of faith and jumped on. And then we attracted a lot of other pieces to the puzzle, that we added. We added another a dev that he's a longtime friend of ours as well too. Um, and then we started adding pieces, but we understood that the website, we were predominantly just doing website.
Right.
Websites was just a piece of the pie. And so we needed to add stickiness to it, to what our service was. And so really what we found out early on was that it was our strategy that was really the key, right?
Yeah.
I mean, strategy is like a word that everybody throws around, but it's how do you know what you're going to build or how to make it beautiful if you don't even know what the hell you're doing
Yeah.
and why you're doing it and who you're doing it for? So it's funny, we were doing these things without really as a service. It was naturally the way that we ended up doing the website. But then the more and more clients that we had, we understood like nobody internally on the client side was asking these questions. And then we later learned that is actually a service with strategy and audits and all this stuff. So we started adding the strategy side of things. And then obviously we are strategizing, we make a plan and we build it. Well, how do you create ongoing revenue? Well, you have to be able to show the client that the investment that it made has an ROI.
Right.
So that means metrics, analytics, tracking, right? And so that's when we brought some team members on board as well too that were excellent at that. And it just came together because it didn't feel like it was new services. It was like, let's get the best people to head up those things and then naturally do what we're good at. And so we find ourselves today, we're a full service digital marketing agency. We have 10 full time, and then we have some flex contractors and freelancers that work with us, about 10 or 12 of those as well too. And that really allowed us to be flexible
Yeah.
for the client's needs. And I'll be quite honest, We have people that we have A players that that would be replaced two or three people. So, there's production, there's efficiencies, and there's something there, but it allows us to kind of flex on the need of the client as well too. So that's where we sit today, and we're really proud of what we built up to this point.
I'll bet.
And 10 years, I think we've always knew that 10 years was a big deal, because a lot of agencies and small businesses don't really last that way.
Yeah.
But it's funny, right at the tail end, going in around the corner to 10 years, we are really finding ourselves ready to go to that next level. And what does that mean? That means looking in the mirror and saying, all this great stuff that you're doing for clients, why don't you do it for yourself?
Right.
We all know how that goes.
Yep.
That's a long stare into the mirror,
Yep.
right? Because when you've been in this business for a long time, you can justify all day why you're servicing your client and you're not yourself.
Yeah.
Obviously, at the end of the day, it's billable and non-billable, right?
Exactly.
I mean, but we are now, I think, as far as the partners and the team, really buckling down and having those real conversations of who are we, what are we best at, who do we really want to serve, who do we want to work to, because we've proven that we can make money. And that's cool. I think that's a great goal to have in the first couple of years.
Yeah.
But once you realize that you can make money and you actually produce value to these clients, then I think it justifies really tightening up so that you can even be better to those clients,
Mhm.
and also attract more of those type of clients as well too.
Exactly.
And that's a really hard thing that we're finding right now, because we're constantly having to balance. And we talked about this, the building the business and working on the
Yep.
business. And they're both very critical. I don't have a couple, 5, 10 million in the bank right now, so where I can just float for a couple of years. No, we're bootstrapped.
Yeah.
I'm very happy to say that we've been debt free from day one.
Oh, that's awesome.
And yeah, I mean, when you're in the business for a long time, you don't really see that as a plus. But being around the block now, that's definitely something. We've been able to
Oh, yeah.
pay all our people, very well. We've been able to be debt free, and I'll share as well too. We're in a position now. Maybe what we need to do is look at healthy and healthy debt. But the thing is, where are we going to invest that,
Right.
and how are we going to justify that? So, people would say, "Oh, you guys have been in business in 10 years. You guys have it all figured out." No, we don't. And we absolutely don't have it figured out. But you know what we do have figured out? We have really good people.
That's awesome.
We have really good people. We do. We love our clients that we work with. We do damn good work, and we get results. So really, what it is we're not trying to do a shotgun approach where we just go out and, like, anybody that wants to work with
Right.
a overlap. We're really at a point where, like, how do we get 10 more of our best clients?
There you go.
Because that's a big deal.
Oh, absolutely.
And I would say to that point, something that I've learned along the way is, yes, I understand that things look dire when you're not getting a lot of projects. But I will tell you, put some parameters on the type of client you're taking, the type of work that you're taking, because there's times we've taken projects and clients that, even though it wasn't a great amount of money, but we needed some money, it was more headache and stress on top of the situation we're at, because of the fact that that client was unsure.
Right.
So that's a huge thing. You get very mesmerized by just having an opportunity or cashing the check. But I would just say, be careful and understand what's behind that check.
Absolutely.
Really take the time up front to be transparent. This is the way we like to work. Ask them right up front, right before the scope of work is even written out. how do you like to work? Do you like communication all the time? Do you like a lot of details? Understand what their understanding of marketing is. Because if they're new, I can go on all about this. We've talked about it, but if you have a client that doesn't know about marketing, but is humble enough to admit that, but smart enough to ask the right questions, and then understand and receive and digest, that's money. If you have a client that is trying to look like they know what they're doing and don't know what they're doing and can't and don't have the answers or the questions for you, you're in for a long haul. So just I would say that's one of the biggest things in my journey that I would love to tell anybody that would listen out there. I don't care what industry you're in, is understanding the type of client and relationship that you're getting into.
Yeah. No, I love your intentionality about that. Um, so let me ask you a question, Dale. So you're saying, as a business owner, I have the right to interview
Mm,
the client that I'm about to serve and make a choice of whether or not I'm going to intentionally say yes or no.
absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
I think the number one thing that I see over and over again with business owners is they feel like they don't have that ability.
Right.
I can't. I can't turn up an opportunity to make some money. I can't turn a client down. What will that do for my brand name? I can't turn them away, because then they won't look at me as good. But I love your intentionality is, no, long term, if you don't enjoy working with the client that you're working with and they're not a profitable client to work with, then yeah, the headache, the hassle, and the pain that you'll go through is going to be worth way more than you're going to ever make
Mhm.
out of having that client. So I love that you're saying, yes, business owners, anybody who's listening, you have the ability to choose who you work with.
Yeah.
And not only do you have that ability, please exercise that right.
Absolutely. And I've been in that seat. I've been in my room alone thinking about, man, I need some projects. So I feel it, that burn. And then when you start growing your company and people are depending on you, I mean, I've worked with other places where they have the gift, and I'm going to call it a gift, of separating that, meaning you are a resource, I pay you, so there's no emotional attachment. Unfortunately, that's not how I'm built. There's a huge, and I signed up for it. There's a huge burden and responsibility that I feel for the people that dedicate their lives, you know, to this dream that we have.
Yeah.
And so I think a couple of things. I love the point that you made, but I would say two things. If you're not comfortable with that, here's another couple of things. You must interview and understand what you're getting into, even if you feel like it's shifting the mind of the way you look at it.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, when you're asking questions, qualifying questions, as a responsible on the client side, they're not seeing it as a disrespectful. They're seeing it as like, oh, these guys know what the fuck they're doing.
Yep.
They're and you know what? It's like I coach basketball as well, to high school and AAU basketball. And one thing that I learned about coaching the youth is, no matter how rambunctious or uh, they talk a lot of stuff, they're all looking to be led.
Yeah.
They're all looking to be led. So it's the same thing with the client. There's a reason why they need your help. If they can do it themselves, they just do it themselves. So they don't have the answer. So they're scared. So when you're asking those questions and you're keeping everything accountable, you can do it in a professional and
Oh,
respectful way.
absolutely.
But I guarantee you, they're thinking, man, these are the guys that I need to be talking to. Also, it's in those conversations that you learn way more about the project or the goals of what they're doing. Because there's one of my favorite questions to ask when I'm dealing with a client is, why now? Why are we talking right now? And I just had a client, is all of a sudden all the drama, all the toxic management, and they're like that, and you just let them talk. And what you'll find is it's not what you thought is the solution or the goal, is that there's depths to it. And now that you have that information, you're able to address
Yeah.
those. You're not just you can talk to them and communicate on different levels.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that's been powerful for us along the way.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that, and thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. I love your intentionality about, hey, sometimes you just are lucky and you get put in the right place at the right time, but just because you're lucky doesn't mean that you still don't have an obligation to make the most of that situation. I loved your intentionality around that. Of nope, I'm a sponge. I'm going to take this and I'm going to make the most that I can out of this situation because why not? I'm going to learn as much as I can so that I can continue to grow and develop. And I love your personality and your drive of, you know what? No, I love learning and there's no reason why I should stop. I'm going to keep on learning. And I love as your team, you brought this point up. You said people come to us and say, well, you've been in business for 10 years. You must have all the answers. And I love that you're like, no,
No.
what got us here is awesome and we got here, but what got us here isn't going to get us to the next step. It's not. And so many people don't recognize that. They think, well, if I got here, then I can get there. Well,
Right.
yeah, but you have to be intentional about it. And you brought the word strategy, right? Strategy. You have to strategically think, okay, what strengths do I have that I can leverage, and what strengths do I need to go and develop so that I can get to this next step? Because just because I made it here doesn't mean that I have all the correct strengths to get me to the next step. I may have to go learn some new things, and I may have to pivot slightly and leverage some of those strengths in a different way than I have previously so that I can continue to add value. I can continue to be relevant in the eyes of my clients. And I think that the point that you brought up that I like the most is I think too few people take the time to be intentional about thinking through whom do I serve,
Mm.
right? I get it. As a small business owner, when you're first starting out, you're taking whatever jobs you can, right? Because
Right.
I gotta prove out my business model. I gotta make sure that it's repeatable and that it's going to be able to be sustainable, and I got to prove it out. So you're just taking whatever you can. But when you get to a point where you're like, okay, I've got that figured out. I have something that's valuable. It's repeatable. I can make it sustainable. I've got some clients that are staying with me. Awesome. I love the intentionality of, okay, but now I need to dig deep and I need to say, okay, who do I love working with the most and the whole team? Who do we love collectively as a team? What kind of customer, what kind of client do we like working with and why? Okay, then now let's take a list of all of our clients and see which ones are the most profitable, right? We're not talking about, how much we're charging them. We're talking about after we've done all the work, what's the leftover? What's the actual profit margin that we're getting from this? Which one's the most profitable? And then correlating those two and saying, okay, I really like to work with these people. Oh, and look, they're one of the most profitable people. Or I love working with these, but man, they're just not profitable. Okay, well, then maybe I need to tweak some things, adjust something, change things. But if we're intentional about that and we take a look at who we're serving and then make those decisions, and I love that you said, and put some parameters in place based on that data. So then you're looking at that data and saying, okay, we love working with these types of people and doing this type of work because it's profitable. How do I find clients that are both? They need this kind of work and they're this kind of person because then it's a win-win. We're going to do exceptional work. We're going to wow them. We're going to create the value for them, and we're going to have fun while we do it. We're going to enjoy
Right.
it. Love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Just fantastic information.
If I may add to this, because that's such a great point. Um, and if there's other entrepreneurs out there, I want them to know too, like that's a transition.
Oh
It's not going to happen overnight. So I would say, yes, we know that we have to eat and to bring in some money. I would say just with your eyes wide open, just understand like that it's going to be a certain situation. So you and your team be prepared.
Yeah.
Maybe just strategically bring on the client or the project, but then put some established guardrails, right? A couple examples. If they are expecting if they an email or a text or whatever, and they want you to respond right away, no, like just let them know. We'll respond within 24 hours, or that I get back. So create like it's almost like you have to kind of train them a little bit,
Oh, absolutely.
um,
Yeah.
right? And also just understanding if the more concerned you are about the project or the client, the tighter you need to have that scope of work.
Yeah.
The tighter. So because you don't want the conversation to be emotional, meaning, I thought you meant this. No, this is what I thought. You get that in writing and you get it signed off. It's very easy, and it avoids a lot of conflict if you just say, you show them what was signed
Yep.
and what was expected, and then it diffuses. So I guess for me is I understand that you're not always going to get the perfect client all the time. I
Right.
think it's a journey of that, but at the same time, if you need to take in some projects, just take the time to do all the things to avoid those obstacles and speed bumps along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Love that. Love the intentionality around that, and safeguarding yourself and the situation. And you brought up one of my favorite quotes is clarity is kindness.
Mm-hmm.
And people
Oh, I like
forget
that.
about that. But the more clear you can be, you're actually being kind, because you're making sure that there's not going to be some friction later on in this relationship, because you were clear right up front. These are my expectations. This is what you should be your expectations, right? And setting that stage early, because then, yeah, exactly. I love the intentionality around that. That no, I don't want to have this emotionally charged conversation
Right,
later of,
right,
oh, but what about this and what about that? No, I was clear up front. This is what you were to expect.
right.
This is what we expect. As long as we both play fair within those boundaries, we're going to be fine.
Clarity is
Yeah.
kindness. I think I just heard my wife in the back say amen.
I love that. Love that.
Yeah, I like that. I'm going to use that.
Great. Well, Dale, this has just been a pure treat for me. I know that those who are taking the time to watch this episode are going to feel the same. What an awesome journey you've been on. Um, you've been so intentional along the way. I just love your intentionality around understanding where you're at the moment, and how that's going to impact not only the here and now but the later. Just a great attribute to have, a breath of fresh air. So thank you for sharing that. um,
Oh, yeah.
any of you out there who have just fallen in love with Dale the way that I have, and are interested in speaking more to him, or finding out more about Overlap, Dale, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Yeah, thank you for that. Overlapinteractive.com is the website, but please email directly at Dale, Dale, like Chip and Dale, the cartoon characters. I'd like to clarify
Love
that.
it.
Dale at overlapinteractive.com. Would love to hear from you guys. And to be quite honest, we're just looking for whether it's just connecting. I'd love to share further experience. That's the thing. I've been in the industry for a long time, and I'm at that age right now that I think I want to give back. I'd love to help anybody that's having a couple speed bumps, because for me, I just needed somebody to kind of push me in the right direction. So it doesn't have to be about digital marketing perspective. Like in your audience, John, like please just contact me again. That's Dale at overlapinteractive.com, and look forward to hearing from you guys.
Awesome. Love that. And please, as you hear me say always in the episodes that I'm hosting, please take action. You've heard some great things here. Just choose one and put it into action. And I promise you, you're gonna like the results you hear. If you have questions, please, by all means, reach out to Dale. This is awesome that he's providing this information. Reach out to him. He's obviously a wealth of knowledge, and he's excited to hear from you. Also, if any of you hearing this episode heard something that you're like, you know what, I know somebody that could benefit from this, please share it with them. Let's create as much value with as many people as we possibly can. I mean, That's the whole reason that we do this. So again, Dale, thank you. It's been a great pleasure. Love what you've shared with us today. I know that you've created a lot of value for those who are listening on. Always a pleasure. Love doing this. And with that, that ends and concludes the 7-Figure Journey podcast, where we focus on entrepreneurs and the lessons learned along the way. Thank you. And till next time, take care.